So I just click go live, right? I just
Good evening. Okay, thank you everyone again for joining us. And we're in the second class of the three-part series of Sholom Bayis for men. The first shiur was dedicated to building strong foundations and building the groundwork for the relationship between husband and wife. And this shiur is titled Taking It From Good to Better, which is enhancing the relationship. And what I'm going to point out is that some of the things I'm going to describe, if you are in any way like many of, not many, all marriages that take work, and there's ups and downs and a lot going on in every Yiddish home. So some of what I'm going to describe may seem cute and nice and sound like a laboratory. Theoretically, this is a beautiful concept. So I want to explain the place for what we're going to discuss, which is every person has to have a vision of how a good marriage, how a successful relationship should look, and then he can evaluate where he's holding. If you don't have a goal in mind, so you don't know if you're far or close. So not in any way am I saying that the way I'm going to describe the relationship is meant to be every single day, every moment of the day. That could happen in utopia. But what is required of us is to maintain vision, to steer clear of where exactly we are heading as we not only build, but deepen and enhance the binyan adiyad that the Eibishter benched us with our Ben Zug, that the Eibishter planted in this world, the other half of our neshama. Always have that vision. And therefore, this is extremely important for this nakuda, this concept is very important specifically for people that didn't see the best model of a marriage. So it's important to be aware of that your vision may be not the healthiest, and therefore you have to deal with it because, again, you're going to settle for something else. And therefore, investing the time in having this clear vision is extremely helpful and critical. Now, how to handle the day-to-day grind and the issues that come up, that we dedicated the third class for. Again, today's class is enhancing, but it's a lot going to focus on ideas that can take your marriage to the next level. And some people may think, we're just getting by. We're not yet there. We're not about to get to the next level. And therefore, listen closely, be part, and having this vision, and any time you invest in understanding this is key and is a real investment, because again, the more you adapt in your mind, the more you're just going to play out. Your reactions are going to flow in a proper way, in a way that passed. Right? We're just coming from Yutas Kislev, and one of the ways Chassidus is very different than Musar is Musar zeroes into every midah. What's Meguna and what's Yafa? Even going into specific midas, they'll go through what's not beautiful and what is the beautiful. And Chassidus comes from the approach that if a person shtei techer and sees the vision of the life and keeps an eye on the goal, then was pasnished will shed away. And sepasnish for a chassid automatically. And was a pas, he has a chush to gravitate towards. So this is what we're focusing on what the achdus and the ava between the Eibishter and Knesset Yisrael, the image he planted in this world is a husband and a wife. Ish v'isha shchina shruya b'neim. It's actually not only a mashal like Shir Hashem, but it's actually where the Eibishter is ready to embody himself in this world. He's the shutaf hashlishi, and as we know that Shechina medaberes mibein shnei kruvim, and it was kemar ish v'levayos, etc. So, how do we envision and how do we take our marriage to the next level? So the first point I want to make is it takes one, or preferably even two, to decide to take the achrayus, to take the responsibility for the atmosphere in the house. And what I'm going to say may sound like a whole bunch of random small things, but I want to tell you the difference is in the details. Okay? So you can have a home, there can be a home where everything is ungezogen, stressful, like, and everything that happens can turn into an issue. So basically what's happening, the atmosphere in the home is everyone, I'm describing the extreme, but to a certain degree or another, people are walking on eggshells because what you do may erupt into a volcano. And then there is the extreme opposite, where issues that come up are casual. Okay, it's cute that they forgot the things on the table, or someone made a mess, or the kids did something, and maybe for chinuch purposes you want to put on a stern face. But in your mind, it has to be, one of mother shared on our family that a kid poured flour all over the place and covered her sister's hair. It's so cute. And you could imagine that this could be, it depends on the environment, that will dictate how the people will play out, what this will turn into, what this will erupt into. And therefore, taking that responsibility for how the atmosphere of the home runs is setting the tone for how whatever happens will be taken. So some examples for that. And Agav, this is we have many mamorim in Chassidus that discuss simcha. And the Rebbe Rashab brings this countless times, that when a person's besimcha, not only, he says that the teva can turn hafchi. The teva can turn to the extreme opposite. A person that's generally stingy could be large and is ready to give gelt, and a person that doesn't appreciate, he's ready to make friends with the people that he really can't stand them. Because simcha has that ability of opening a person up to horizons and to bichlal simcha poired together. And therefore, specifically in the home, simcha is critical. And simcha comes from a whole bunch of little random acts. They don't come from a shitta. They don't come as much like a chasana. Okay? So sometimes it's as simple as music, having a music that could play in the background, nice comments. Just be easy, be casual with spreading positivity, because you're gonna need to put things in place, whether it's with your children, or there's gonna be a negative comment that you're gonna tell your wife, something she did bothers you, because a husband and wife are not just random people that are friends. They are in a commitment together. Automatically, whatever the other does will mean much more and will bother. If a certain person does something for his own, if it's a friend of yours, you don't mind if your friend does X, Y, and Z. It doesn't bother you. You're malamet schus or whatever. It's his type of thing. That doesn't work when it's you and when it's your family, when it's your children and kolshkin, when it's your wife. So there's going to come up things. There are always going to come up things that you want to hash out, and we'll discuss how you hash them out. But being that you know that they're going to come up, taking responsibility for the atmosphere and making sure that when they come up, they're going to be dealt with in the best of ways, because you're spreading the vibe of simcha in your home. Hence, she's open to hear. She's open to accept, because it's not judgmental. It's much more casual. It's much more, as we'll describe onward, you're describing what you feel, and you're inquisitive about what happened or what she was thinking when she did it, not judge, why did you do it? This atmosphere makes her not only receptive, but is conducive for the relationship to flourish. So examples, you never see, we spoke about last week the foundation of the relationship. And the foundation of the relationship, as we discussed last week, is your hisboinenus, your thinking into her milas. Actually, there's a fascinating Ksav Yad of the Rebbe that I didn't see it, but I heard it quoted, and I'll try to find it and post it, where the Rebbe told somebody, it seems like, to again reevaluate and think through his wife's milas, or something to that degree. And he wrote down, and the Rebbe wanted to see it, so he wrote it down. It was a wife or a kala, one of the two. And the Rebbe, I think it was the wife, and he wrote in his zettel, he wrote, Lo yisi tzarech laharich kol kach mailaseh. Maybe I didn't need to so extensively draw out and describe all her milas at length. And the Rebbe crossed out Lo yisi, hence tzarech laharich kol kach mailaseh. One ought to. So, assuming we're laying the foundation and we're continuously investing in that, so we're thinking about her milas. We discussed also being clear on what her chesronos are, and that's also going to play out here. But if you have such a list, and you should revisit it and rethink, and she develops also, shear it. She needs to hear it many times. Why does she need to hear it so many times? I told you already. I know, I appreciate. Good. Why does she need to hear it so many times? So I'm just going to give you a little key into how the mind of your Rebbetzin works, and then you'll understand this is one of the forms of spreading positivity, positive vibes, which is the simcha, which is poiritz all the gdarim, as opposed to, and I want to say this, Rahman al-Islam, the atmosphere being atzvos, which is mamshech dinim, as we know, and it itself is a problem. As we know, atzvos is klippa. Atzvos is a klippa, as we know from the Baal Shem Tov, that it could bring what no Aveira could bring. So atzvos in the home, we know there's many stories of the Baal Shem Tov describing the how detrimental it is. But let's imagine, this is, it's moiridik. A husband comes home, and this is, I hope there's only men on here, okay? So a husband comes home, and he is still wrapping up his day. I mean, he's home just physically, but I'm saying in his mind, there's text that he has to get back to. Now I'm talking practical, okay? So there's still text he has to get back to, and people he has to respond to, and there's on his mind something that's going to happen later or in 2 days, and he's like pressured from that, and he comes in, and he didn't acknowledge his wife's presence. He didn't stop and smile and say, "Good evening, Davint," or "How's your day?" You know. So he comes in, and he's on his phone still. He's just wrapping up, and his wife starts asking him questions about this and about that, and now it's getting under your nerves, right? You're trying to focus on something just to wrap it up, not because you have, and she's not asking you to ask her how the day was, okay? She's asking you about, how does this go? And you didn't do yet this and this, and about that store, things that you push it, you're going to lose your train of thought. And at some point, you're going to platz if this continues. And she, davke avdem stellt sie sich, on the things that you can hear now, right? This only happened somewhere in Eretz Yisrael. I'm just sharing it just as an example. So, what's really going on? Imagine I want to tell you like this. Imagine a person comes in, and as a half an hour, listen to this. It could go for a half an hour, and you were responding because you were being contained, and then after that half an hour, when are we going to spend time? And you just spent your half an hour that every moment was like for a year, right? What if us haste we didn't spend time? Like, what does this mean? And now it's going to be a treatment. What's it does? So what's really going on is like this. Let me first describe this scenario the other way around. Imagine a husband comes in and goes over to his wife and says, "How was your day?" And I see the food is ready. It's amazing. So much effort went in. And the kids are calm. How did you get that? And how's the issue you spoke to it too? After 5 minutes of asking questions, she'll say, "Okay, so how was your day?" I say, "Listen, I still need there's like a few things in it. I'm nicht herren." You won't hear from her. She's going to be beseder gamor with you continuing doing your things. Why? And this agav is the metzias. This is just, this is reality. Because the truth is, your wife doesn't really need your time. She needs to know that she is the most important thing in your life. Okay? when you come in and there's other texts going on and she just came onto the scene, the message she heard was, you are not important. Okay? Now, how would you react if your wife came home and told you you're not important? So, darf man es boidig sein, right? You have to check doch. And she's checking and checking and checking. She's busy checking whether she's important. A person has to take responsibility to show his wife that she is the most important person in his life, who he wants to talk through issues he has or update her. If she gets that nekuda, she doesn't need so much more than that. But if she doesn't get that feeling and that understanding and that yisoid, then there's a lot of testing she's going to need to do, and she's going to do it because the truth is, this is the most important thing. She needs to feel cherished. She dropped, she left her parents, and she's yours, right? And you're the pillar of her life, okay? And everything going on at home is on her plate, and it's not easy. So coming in and making her, getting her to understand that she's the focus of your life, and she is and she really is the partner with which you are going to feel. There's only one. I mean, we were born to be mashlim the kavanah al yena here in this world. The person that's going to walk you through and your partner in your avodah is the most important person. Ulay yesh loimer, if the Eibishter is important, so then she's even more important than you, because she's pasha the one. She's your partner. The Eibishter gave you a shlichus together of children. Your shlichus in ba'olam. She is the support. If you're wondering what kind of support the Eibishter, she's the support. She's the Ezer Kenegder. And if you give her that message, and also we spoke a little bit about communication, and convey the way you want the support to look. Many times people want to support each other, but not in the way that they want. Okay? Which is a problem. You convey how you want to be supported, and that's important because that goes back to another nakuda that we discussed in the previous year, which is getting to know yourself and what's going to tick you, what's going to help you. But back to here, you did what we were discussing last year. You have a list, you have clarity on her milas, and you also, your noise ba'oil, you know what she's going through the day. Share it with her. Every time you come in and you say 4 positive comments, 5 positive comments, you spread, you invested. You invested, and then, as we said, there are going to be points that you're going to have to bring up and to discuss. This is going to be this is going to make her the kli to be able to be makabel. So I want to say that even though the examples for this can be very casual and very petty, I heard this line: the most meaningful relationships were built, and everybody can attest to this, from the most insignificant things. You got stuck. You grew up with another friend, and you feel this is your mamish. You feel very close to him. What's his shaykhs to you? The most random small things that get people to hit off or to maintain the relationship, and that goes deeper and deeper. This is by friends, Azai. In a home where the relationship is much more noigeya, how much more so these small comments, you bring something home, you met in the middle of the day a text or whatever it is, getting to a chore without her mentioning these, and the positivity bichlal at home, the comments you make and the things you decide to share, and your approach and your response to things, that builds this is pashat the atmosphere, and you have to take responsibility for the atmosphere. As the Rebbe writes in Ayom Yom Chassid Machtas Viva, don't come in and say, okay, listen, I'm coming in, this is what's going on, so how am I gonna? Ever heard of shliach comes to town and says, listen, this is what's going on, so what should I do? Yeah, you came here. This is the classroom where you get to teach your children how to handle life. Okay, that's your home, and you want to make it not only memorable, which is done by being silly, right? We all learned We all chazed by our chasana. If anyone had a half a minute that says up, it's embarrassing about making small talk and being casual and getting exciting and making jokes about smaller things. This is Yesoid is V'amad Chachma. If you learned L'Chadaydi Tafshin Yudalid, that he says that to make the kli for ashpa, pnimis is ashpa, chitzainis is a milsa de b'dichasa. And if you think this is a chiddush of a maimer, there were quotes Rava that he was right. Nekama de pasach lo b'shmaita, amar milsa de b'dichasa, obadcha rabbanan. It wasn't just he said a milsa de b'dichasa. He obadcha rabbanan. They appreciated the joke, and then pasach b'shmaita. He started teaching this, and the Rebbe goes through and explains that this made them a kli. And this makes your whole family a kli. So taking the responsibility for the atmosphere, and it could be music, it could be your response to things, and being conscious of this is the solution already. As I started mentioning at the beginning of this year, that some of these things, you think, I come in, there's so many problems with my kid, this, and there are issues all over life. And still, a chassid machta sviva. And taking that responsibility gives you. Now, I want to point out another very, very negedik and nekuda. Chassidus explains, the Alter Rebbe explains at length the difference between a brother and sister and other relationships and a husband and wife. And he says this is like ava kamayim and this is ava kirish beyesh. What's pshat ava kirish beyesh? Kirish beyesh means that it flackers, it goes up and down, okay, and it has to be fed all the time. Mashenkin ava kamayim it's kesef, nichsef nichsafti. It runs low, runs quiet, and slow waters run deep. It doesn't need to run. And we all know this without using Heliga Oisius. You could have a friend that you didn't speak to in 40 years. You meet him in the street, and your relationship is as good as ever, if not better. Okay? Oh, how are you doing? Why can't that be with my wife? Darf die ganze Zeit, You should know that by husband and wife, like we said, Shir Hashirim, the Alter Rebbe brings his mamish, the whole Yesod L'Kutei Torah. And it actually has to do with Yidden and Knesset Yisrael and Leibishter, that it's also Be'etzem Gashmis and Ruchnis Arafachim. Men and women, if they don't, a husband and wife, if he doesn't invest in the relationship, you'll find yourself after a little bit of time, slowly drifting apart. And sometimes not even slowly, and sometimes not even apart. You could also discover you don't know what's going on over there. You probably don't know her. Because like we were discussing, the time you give to be inquisitive and hear about her day and hear her thoughts about things. Never assume I know her. I know her already. I got it. I know what you're going to say. I know what your response is going to be. Because the more you spend that time, it's also molding and shaping your relationship, and it's feeding the flame. Without feeding Ava Ke'esh, it will dwindle down, Rahman al-Islam. And that is not investing in Sholom Bayis. So, again, listening, and so what we're describing till now, just to sum it up, is that list that you prepared about her milas, make sure to scatter them. And you have to have enough to go around. Okay? And to notice things that she's doing, and to share. And not only about her. When I say the atmosphere at home, it's not only focused on your wife. It's a lot about the kids. This is atzmacha b'sarcha. Both of you appreciate when the children are happy, when the children are built up, their self-esteem, etc. So you sharing positive comments to your children, about your children, that also is huge for your wife, and spreads positivity and makes the vibe at home a freiliche vibe. And if a kid does, I'm not talking about mistakes. So if your kid makes a mistake, how do you react? Okay, so you need to put him in place, but you still don't worry that happens. You don't need to teach a kid that if he breaks out, next time you won't be able to sit it over here. We'll have to sit it over there. But the way you manage it, that's the way you set set the tone for everything going on at home. So and these are the flames. Milsa de B'dichasa are playing a game. This is mamish the maimer. I'm telling you, this is straight out of L'Chadaydi. That the kid plays with the father's beard and him picking him up. The most random things, they strike the deepest. Similar like similar to in the mitzvahs. I don't know, say lahavdil or not lahavdil. We are the Knesset Yisrael, the Eibishter, and the mitzvahs maisius bepoil, which may seem the most far off and the most insignificant, that reaches the etzem. Tainug reaches the etzem, and therefore the milsa the bdichasa opens the head, which is you would think much more sophisticated. The Tanaim, the Amoraim are sitting and they're about to be pasach b'shmaitza. What could be the best hachana? To laugh, to make a joke, ma'azeh, to make small talk, light of it. It's Torah. And the answer is no. The answer is that tainug and simcha, that opens up even the mind, all the kishroiness. So the kids are making your wife a kli for any type of discussion or for anything that goes on at home or for you as a person. Okay. Now one of the things I'm trying to do in this year is take the foundations that we discussed last week and show you how you have to incorporate into the day-to-day. So, for example, that list of her milas, and now I would move on to another thing. We discussed last week getting to know yourself. Okay? Getting to know yourself and conveying that has a lot to do with prevention. You know, if you're self-aware enough, you'll know that certain things are going to irk you. And it is the most wonderful thing to take time before Hanukkah and tell your wife, listen, you know that when we put down the menorah, when there's oil over there, this takes my blood pressure goes up. I don't know, everybody there, time before, or when this kid and this and that. So what can we do about it? Even, first of all, applies to here. Discussing it makes your wife aware, and that will help prevent That will help prevent. But the more, in addition to that, the more self-aware you are, the easier it is for you to handle tough situations. Because you have a to a large degree you have a clear the relativity is healthy. You know its place. That you know for other people it's not such a big deal. For me it's a big deal. So then okay, it's my issue. And you could talk about it and you should do something about it, but that's what it is. Right? So being self-aware and everything we discussed in the past, getting to know yourself and getting to your biggest your biggest mikitzer, the zulas is a mirror for you, is your wife. She knows the most. And discussing it, and I wouldn't say she necessarily knows you the best as much as by talking to her, you reveal yourself more. And you discover, and these things, you think, was darf ich trachten wegen sich, right? I think about myself and what, you don't need to. But if you don't, it's abrufen, right? It's like the goof, you decide, I'm not going to sleep for a week, I'm just going to work. The body's going to demand the din v'cheshbon. And the Baal Shem Tov taught us that we have to work with the guf. And this is your shlichus. We discussed in the first year also that your moichin is God-given to the extent that, I'm going to say this, to the extent, it's important to note this, that a person's style and a person's approach to life and perspective, I'm not talking about how he uses his bchira. They are mamish. This preceded his creation. This is when his neshama was lamal, before his guf was formed b'chlal. And not only that, it's going to exist after the guf exists. We all know from the Ma'is of Shol and Shmuel Hanavi, when he brought him down through the lady from the Oiv, the personality stays. The personality, even when the neshama is without the guf, the personality of the nifter is the same. That's the way he's going to respond. That's the way he's the asad la'achiyosei. Why? Because they're. So this is your shlichus. Knowing yourself is gold. Is a gvir in bifrat in terms of prevention. And prevention doesn't only mean preventing issues from plotting by yourself, but also raising zechuf eben. You know that you can only run for this amount of hours, and if you need a boost, this is what's going to give you the boost. The more you're aware, this talks a lot to prevention. Now, I want to say we started talking about the marriage itself in terms of and what a lady needs, what a person's wife needs to feel that she's cherished. She wants connection. But you should know that every person, b'yosei yeshu metzias, he was created as a metzias nivra, also needs self. He also, needs to feel he has his own time, his own space, he has his own, and it's like it's a dance, mamish. Most conflicts that come up and most issues that come up are really whether it's the way I want, and that talks to, being a nivra and a metzias, and I want to feel like I am, or connection, or why don't we do this together? Why don't we agree on this? And you don't need to agree. I'm not going to get into conflict resolution right now, which is the subject of the third shir. But again, understanding the concept, it's extremely okay, and not only okay, zeva oid yoser, to say, I need some time myself. It's not a stira to her being valuable in your life. It's the way that you're going to be able to value her. Because if you spend enough time yourself, you'll realize that you need a ezer kenegdai. And her, for herself, time for herself or for her with her friends, etc. You need, in the same way, time together. There's nobody that gets away without dedicating time, and one has to dedicate time. I think the Rebbe, as we quoted last week, discusses a half an hour a day. That's very, very hard, and that's a tall order. I would envision that there are big mukasharim that are able to do that. Half an hour a day, calm tea time, Givaldik. But in a week, to designate time, an official time, not just, now I have a half an hour, but as an official time that we're gonna meet. Put an alarm in your phone. Monday night, 9 o'clock. Whenever you decide. And then it rings off by both of you, and you say, okay, well, it's not working, it's not going to work tonight, we'll do it the next night. Whether you're going to go out, get together, or spend time at home together, sometimes to break, to get away. This is, you're coming into the home and telling her right away, asking how was her day, and telling her again and again, and affirming and reaffirming the truth that's in your mind. I'm not, as Nishfalsha mentioned, I'm not just telling you a technique that works. She really is the pillar of your life. But she doesn't understand it necessarily if you come in and you sideline her. And she's getting a different message. And that gives her the message. So just like when you come in, that's what gives her the message. You are the most important person in my life. And that's why right now when I see you, that's why I want to talk to. I want to hear how your day was and how the kids, how it was with the kids. And I want to appreciate how you prepared supper and follow up with different things that she mentioned to you, which you should, like randomly. Also because you care about her hard work. On a larger scale, taking time and setting time. And you should do it. And if you didn't do it till now, take out your phone or whatever helps you schedule yourself and decide with your wife an hour. Start with an hour. I'm not talking about a whole evening. If you could do, I know a lot of people that do one evening a week, how they handle the babysitters and andere Sachen and what they do when they need to go out. These are shein hasagis. I'm talking about taking an hour. Put in your phone, 9 o'clock Monday, as an example, and it's going to ring by both of you. And you know what, with time, Monday doesn't work, a different day. But that on a larger scale is your statement, and is your reaffirming that she's important and she anchors into your day. Now, another important enhancer, and we're talking about taking your Sholom Bayis and the Sholom of your home, the atmosphere of your home, to the next level. I'm going to give you a very simple but powerful technique that I believe is worth its weight in gold. Okay? There are many things that have to get done. And when something has to get done, it's not taken or appreciated as a gift. And when a person thinks about a gift, he's thinking about, oh my gosh, does he have money now for jewelry or to cut out? That's a whole time to go out on a vacation. How's it going to work? You should know that medafnish don't come in dafkit. To them, there are much simpler forms. There are small things in life that your wife will appreciate as a gift, and she'll take it as a gift. But you may not know what it is, and she may not know. She didn't formulate it. So sitting down together and each one making a list of at least, try 20 things, small things, that if their spouse, and this is the hagdara of a gift, if she doesn't do it, or if he doesn't do it, you won't feel angry. It's not something that has to get done. But if it will get done, you'll appreciate it as a gift. And in the context of spreading positivity and setting the tone for the home, these gifts are small things that you don't need to make announcements and you don't need to make statements. Prepare such a list and do it together. Not together in terms of you trying to guess. Don't guess. Let her sit down and think, and you'll be very surprised about some of them. How simple they are, and you'll realize a day without 4 or 5 of them is not out of the, you could do them derech agav, a lot of them, and yourself as well. Sit down and prepare. But again, remember, it's a gift. It's not chores. Things that you need to get done, or that that she nags, you have to clean this and do that. That's not a gift. That's not a gift. The gifts will give you the koyach to get it, or will give her the ratzon to get to whatever she needs to get to, and it's the support. But the gift is the relation. These gifts are the relationship that, and it's what I would say is, after she writes the list, you repeat back. This is it says about the Sanhedrin that every time one of the Toyanim would say a taina, the Rav responds back. That means you said Azay and Azay. Right? Slipped my mind just now where it's from. It's in Tanakh. The Rav has to be choyte. He has to repeat back, and to ensure that he heard the taina properly. Always do that. But in this context, if she said this is the gift, tell her, does this mean, and go through each one of them. Does this mean if I'll do Azay and Azay, this is gonna be, and have her explain, or even write it down on a cards. And I want to tell you, this will give you the ability to spread positivity. When I say positivity at the beginning of this year, and you're thinking like, what exactly? To turn on music, to say a comment here, say a comment there. You have to be very creative and very, you have to be able to notice everything, very receptive and very, you have a list of little things that you may push it, not even know, whether it's eye contact before you leave the house and say, Guten Tag, Atzlacha, or whatever it is, or whether it's simple things that she would appreciate if you made your bed. I don't know what everybody with their whatever floats your Rebbetzins boat, but you want to have this list, and you want to give such a list, because this list gives your spouse and yourself the positivity of creating Sholom Bayis, creating peace in the home, a freiliche home. And I want to tell you, it's not only, I started off saying, when there's a happy home, so small issues are not issues. You could laugh at them. This came up, not such a big deal. And it's true also, because like we said, with Simcha, small things, it also is a place that you want your kids to look forward to come home. You want them to run to your house and not Rahman Islam from your house. You want yourself, and your wife wants you. This should be the place where you come to. This is your home base. And that's why taking the responsibility from here, of the matzav in your house, is key and is a yisoy to enhancing Bechlal marriage. And Bechlal Simcha is put together. There's a beautiful mimer. The Rabbi suggests every person, mamish, every married person should learn this. I learned this tens of times. This mimer, it's a short mimer called Asher Bara Tavshem Mem Ches. It's actually the final mimer the Rebbe said on Yedalit Kislev, before the Rebbe passed away. After the Rebbe passed away, obviously we know the Rebbe didn't say, it generally didn't say Mamarim. And I'm just going to share the Vartan on a Kudu. The Rebbe quotes the Frierdiker Rebbe's, the Rebbe quotes the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maimer that he said by the Rebbe's Chasana in the Sheba Brachas. Asher bara sasim simcha chasam v'kala gila rina ditza v'chedva avavach v'shalom b'reis. The Eibishter created sasim v'simcha, which are two emotions, forms of rejoicing, and then he says chasam v'kala, and then continues with a whole another 8 lists, eight forms of simcha, emotions. So the Frierdiker Rebbe asks a klotz kasha, why doesn't it say Asher bara chasam v'kala? The Eibishter created the concept of a chassan and a kala, and then with them and from them emanate, from the fact that they're getting together, sas and simcha gila rina ditza v'chedva. Why does he start off and say Asher bara sas and v'simcha, and then chassan v'kala, and then get back to the rest of the emotions, right? Why didn't he say it Pashat organically? He should have said Asher bara chassan v'kala. The Eibishter created Adam and Chava, and then from their union, that brings to and leads to the simcha of a person's life. Gila Rina, Sas and Simcha Gila Rina. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says that the Eibishter is, I'm going to say my own lashon, the Eibishter is Makdim Refuah Lamaka. A Mashpi and a Makabel are two opposites. Men and women think verkehrt. And two people, once they're in a commitment, and it's negea what the other person really feels, they'll always have this crashing relationship. Be'etzem. Because they taka feel different. They taka see things different, and they taka don't match up. And therefore the Eibishter created a refuah, so to speak, which is simcha. Why is simcha? Because simcha paritz gather. Simcha paritz gather gives them both place that they can be sai on their own and sai together, and the hagbalas are not rigid. And a beautiful, beautiful maimer. The Rebbe applies it to seichel. The Rebbe says, if a person has his neshama is not being mashpi on the guf, his seichel is not being mashpi on the hergish, so check the simcha. Simcha is the answer to all your questions, because simcha paritz gather. Anyway, and this is the nekuda we're talking about at length. Enhancing Sholom Bayis is enhancing Simcha in the home, and Simcha in the home is done by gifts, by your expressing your appreciation for all the things you wrote on your list, by preventing and looking out for each other. You know that this is something that's hard for her. Don't wait till it hits and then help her, support her through. Be even smarter than that. Say, I know this is going to be hard. Let me take part of it. Or, go to sleep now because I know later it's going to be harder. Or, maybe buy something for her because this is going to be hard for her. Whatever the specific, whatever you know and you learned from your experience about her, apply that. That is bringing and spreading not only positivity in the home, simcha in the home, and that, again, makes her the kli, these small little things, like the game playing with the kid on the floor that the Rebbe brings in Tafshin Yudalid, or like the Milsa de B'dichasa, you think they're small talk, and it's a pasnish for Greis Chasidim, and you should know that this is by the Amiroim, Pasal B'Shmaitza, that they were able to afterwards understand it, because Tainug is mashpia on Ratzin, and I want to tell you, when people care for each other and are happy for each other, so they're not out to get each other. They're not here to find. They want to flourish together. This does. I do want to mention a little bit about crisis, even though not crisis in Sholom Bayis, but going through hard times together. There are people that after challenges, health challenges, even ironically, even infertility issues, and finally they have a child, and then if you find that they got divorced, Chwan al-Islam, and because response to crisis, and I'm not talking about heavy crisis. I want to apply this to every situation a person has. It will put strain on the marriage, because when two people are pressured, obviously simcha level is going to go lower, and therefore being conscious, knowing that this is going to be a hard time, you want the crisis to build your relationship. You're going to go, even if it's because of one of them. Sometimes that can happen. For chinuch purposes, one parent has a shvacha relation with a child, and they trigger each other, and it's one of them's fault. Let's call it that. Okay. Still, it's our home, and we're going to build from this. And when you know that you're in it together, you're not against each other. You're not there to blame whose fault it is. You're both here to deal with it, whether it's a crisis, a financial crisis, which is extremely prevalent in chinuch, or the marriage itself, or any argument. Even when you sit down, you find yourself in the middle of this of debating and arguing about how certain things should be, how we should run our house, how we should be mechanech, how we should run our Shabbos table, where kids should learn what they should do in the afternoons, what they should not do, which friends. When you find yourself at that point, you want to take a step back and say the most important thing in this argument is how our marriage is going to look afterwards. Is it going to get stronger? And therefore, a lot of times it's not about it's never about convincing the other person. It's about caring enough to say, you know what, we're going to do it. I see this is so important for you, we'll have it your way, or let's come to some sort of understanding. When we're over here, when I'm here, so let's not do this or that. That happens when the most important thing is the relationship, not who's right, and that the most important thing is how we're going to look after this argument. How is our marriage going to look? Because really, it's ironic. You could have parents arguing about chinuch, and this argument is killing the chinuch itself. Doesn't matter what the argument. Let's say he learns in the other yeshiva, a home where there's a happy place and a geschmack place. You can't. That is the most important thing. The most important factor in a child's chinuch, by a long shot, is his parents' relationship. Much more than which yeshiva he learns in, which food he eats, which obviously is ruchnistic zachen and it's negeya. But if it's an argument between parents, then making sure that the relationship gets stronger. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen and how to go about it and what to do. We'll discuss it next year. But in terms of making sure the home is a strong one, the relationship, the ava is strong and unshakable, you have to constantly feed this ava ke'esh, constantly. And therefore, never in healthy marriages, in freiliche houses, they always want to hear, how do you feel about it? Not that I know already what you say. You want to hear how they feel about things, what their perspective, how to go about it, and what do you think b'chlal? And you're inquisitive. That inquisitive is the biggest key b'chlal. I'm saying also in Limud HaTorah. This is my eitzah for Limud HaTorah, just from left field. But be inquisitive. Zay neigerig. What's the din? What's the hava mina? Just curiosity. This curiosity is a drive for appreciating an answer. And this curiosity in marriage, what does she feel? How does she look at it? Be open to hear. Know that the way you look at things is the way you look at it. And it's not a real truth. It's the way you perceive it, which is your shlichus in life, which was your avodah, which is karev el emes. But if she sees something else and she sees it in a different way, it's not necessarily about arguing. You could share. I see it this way. That's called the I message. I share the and you don't have to both agree. I want to tell you, you're very happy that she stays who she is, and she's very happy that you are who you are. That's what's written on her list. She appreciates that you think different. When I'm going to think that way and I'm going to express it, you're going to have a problem with it. Good. The process is critical. The process is important. How we go about sharing, because then it's not an argument. It's a discussion. And the tension is, it builds the shalom at home, because you realize how you complement each other as opposed to how different you are and how wrong the other one is and how narish. She has a different approach, and you don't have to be convinced. You just want to marvel at the fact that someone else thinks in such a way. That's the mile of being inquisitive. Pashan neigerig. That's where we start, and this is speaking of the way Torah has things to have taught. We have the famous example of a classroom, and the only example we have of a classroom in Torah is the Pesach Seder. We set up everything. The kinders will fragen kashas, because when a kid is hungry for information, then you could feed him information. It's going to go in, and there's being curious will help you drive and want to grow and help you both flourish, because it's not just finding out who they are. It's finding out who they're evolving into. And part of you're both evolving over the avodah that you have, and your shlichus changes, and that's all by being inquisitive about what the other person feels, that will drive your growth together. And like we were discussing the previous year, and I want to mention it again, because over here it's even more nagea. The understanding that we are here to grow together. We're here to grow together. No one's so even if this is how I do things, this is what I do, still you're open to growing together. I want to hear how she's doing it, etc. Okay, again, a crisis is our issue. It's not. It's yeah. Okay. I'm gonna add. This is a story I had. Pashit. Someone came to me, actually a friend, and said, he has this issue. This is just gonna illustrate this point of growing together. He has this issue. His wife grew up in a community, in a European community, and for whatever reason, there's a certain food that they got used to eating, which is not Chalav Yisrael. And he's a Lubavitcher. He's a Chiddush man. And Chalav Yisrael is like, heavy. I mean, if this is going public, I don't know, but if like Zagan Saddam and nine, whatever. Nine Misnagdim and Ein Chassid. To drinking the chal vacuum. What do I do? So I said, you ever have a chance to bring together? He said, no, we don't do that. Why? You want to be, you want to feel comfortable to not everything, not your whole avodas Hashem is her business, and you have your farbrings that you go to, and you have to have a shul and a place to belong, a chevra that's going to support you and your avodas Hashem. But to be able to be real and honest in your relationship also with the Eibishter, not everything, but sitting down while you're in the pagra and saying, what can we up, or it's Yutas Kislev. To sit down and to, besides what you make, I hope you make with your kids, that's also part of setting the tone. Take a chrayas, put a Bayis tishtach, put out 2 candles, and that day is a different day. That house is a different house. I know. I'm giving you an example from myself. I learned this from Gatzel, and it's unbelievable. Okay, Motzei Shabbos, I wanted to make a Malava Malka. Malava Malka is people didn't tap into this. Malava Malka is a treasure for a family. It's much less. It's not as red tape as Shabbos. Vartera and fish and soup. It doesn't need to be dafka with a hand and kapata even. And you turn on Askinu Sudai. You put on Gutavach and Nigi and Amar Hashem Yaakov, and you tell stories. It's mamish special. It's Yaakov going in Yaakov Halach Ladarkai, going into the week. How do you make it special with your kids? So Pasha, I realized one of my kids likes lox from Motzei Shabbos. Go and you buy, and it's just a different. Second son, he makes eggs, and the atmosphere is a different atmosphere. Many times they're just technical things, and you have to put in thought because that's what brings change, right? Everyone knows the definition of insanity of Einstein is to do the same thing and believe you'll have a different result. So you have to at some point break out of the routine. But this is what it's about. Sometimes putting down a tablecloth, changing out the layout, it's a special day. But the nekuda that I was mentioning about this friend is, does he ever sit down? Can you sit down and have a real, not because you're preaching, decided to teach her now not to eat chal. No. You want to share with her, it's a special day, and I'm taking a chlata on myself, and I want to share a story. Could she share a story? Anything inspired her if she went to an event or something she heard recently. Bring together. This is different than going out, because this is a little heavier. But then she really could knows that on your heart it's very heavy that she's eating that, and she's not ready to make that hakrava. And if she's not ready to make that sacrifice for you, it's a cheshbon nefesh that you want to make. How strong is the foundation? How much more you can invest in the Sholom Bayis? Because this is and take things on yourself. Make it to go. Stop and think. Bekitzer, stop the rot. Stop and think. Again, how you can perform better. I want to tell you, as life moves on, you want to stop and at some point ask her how she's appreciating certain things. Does she feel different about things that once she felt good about? Not even talking about the mitzvah also, but other things as well. You want to be able to have an open conversation. And people that are not open enough with their wife, with who are you open? There is things that are appropriate for different types of relationships, and when the right relationships are in the right place, all the other relationships are also in place. The hierarchy exists. If with your wife you have the right relationship, with your kids they'll have that type of kavod, and with your friends you'll have their. You don't want that to be Rahman al-Itzlan tampered with or not clear. The kids are going back to one nekuda. I think we're getting close to an end, and we described at length. I didn't just say a list of things. It was like a farbrengen. I hope it also got soaked in the value of what I'm trying to express, making your house a safety haven, and for her to express herself. And when you want to ask, you want to be the one to ask and prevent, etc. And you taking the achrayus. How many? If you ever need to say a comment that's going to be, sharp, or even like with your face, or you want to have, for that comment, the ratio should be 1 to 5 of positive comments, of positive gestures, interactions, and the list of gifts will give you that ability. But again, we discussed also setting a set time in the week when you're going to spend time together is like those questions when you come into the house and tell her you're important. That will not only won't cost you time, that's going to free up the rest of the time. Because if she believes that you are with her, like in the story of the person that came home and after 5 minutes, that hour, 2 hours, 5 hours in the week will free up the rest of the week. Because if she got that memo, she doesn't need so much of you. There's a lot she could do on her own. And there's even more she could do with that feeling of support, of knowing that she has a husband that wherever he is throughout the day, he cherishes her, he appreciates her, she is the center of his life, and she is the akeres habayis, the ikr of your home that you're paying the mortgage and you're working the whole day off for, and the kids. It's her. So these are ways to bring the best out of each other. You'll find if and when and the more you invest in this simcha in the home, you'll find yourself bringing out the best of each other and finding the positive and just marveling at each other's magnificence. Pashat, appreciating. And again, it's not only milas. Sometimes, like we discussed the previous year, a woman can have a real problem, and it never. That's the Eibishter wrote the shlichus that you have, but even with that, it should not stop you from marveling at someone else, how they think differently and how they interact, and think for your own creative ways how you're going to prevent, and how you're going to soften, and how you're going to be miyasha derech for your kids, for your house, to maintain the freiliche atmosphere, which is the simcha poretz geder, which gives the ability. That's what makes the marriage be a success. I think we have a lot to look forward to, because next week is a lot about challenges and how to go about challenges and how to go about disputes, arguments, and conflict. But laying the foundation, and then what we discussed now, ensuring that the aver is a positive one, and taking the atmosphere of the home and the Sholom Bayis to the next level, making it from good to better, is going to take next week's shir to the next level as well. Thank you so very much for joining, and we should take from the Shana Tova Balum Dachsidus V'Darkei Achsidus Kol inyan achsidus l'shanes teva midoisas. Brother Rashav is brought in Yom Yom. And l'sharish, it's also brought to take away any midah, kol midah ra. In the Rebbe Rashav's letter that the Rebbe quotes, the famous letter from Samach Vav describing Samach Vav or Samach Bayis in the beginning of Hayom Yom, that legarish menu kol midah ra meguna. I want to tell you at the Rebbe's Chasner, Friedrich Rebbe Chazer, a mimer about a person with bad midas and good midas, and you see that sometimes by a chasana, a person being in a relationship could bring out a lot of things that irk you that never irked you before, and you're thinking she's bringing out. This is it's a lot of avodah. It's a lot of avodah. Noticing yourself, noticing her, looking out for each other, supporting each other, but invest in the aver that will make everything that flows from it as gevaldik as it as the brachas that you said, as they said by the chasana, that we asked the Eibishter, we benched the Eibishter, that he was misamech such a couple, like he was misamech Yitzircha b'Ganed Mikedem, like he was misamech Adam and Chava, that there was no one else in the world. That's the way we should walk in. There's no one really else. This is my spouse. This is my wife. And you appreciate her the way Adam appreciated Chava. He asked for Ezer Kenegdai. She was the only woman, and she was me'atzmacha me'psarcha. And there's a scary rishon that says that the chet etzadas wasn't that he ate; it was the lack of hakaras hatov when he said ha'isha shenasatei madi. When he said she was the one that gave it to me. You gave me this wife. That lack of hakaras hatov was the chet etzadas, hafladik. Anyways, so we should. I'm saying Meruba me the taiva to appreciate and to share that appreciation and to ensure that we're not megala cheba barabim in front of your children, but making sure that atmosphere and that bond is felt by the children. That Tati will always say, "What does mommy say?" Or he respects mommy's opinion. Everybody knows this, and if mommy said, that's what it's going to be, and you stand for. These are the yisoides for Ksamecha Yitzircha B'Ganed Mikedem. Thank you very much. Good evening.